Oh, okay, the camera. I walk away for a minute and the exposure changes. Hey, it's not a stream if things go wrong right away. I walk away for a minute. All right. All right. Let me pop out the chat so I can see y'all easier. Yeah, I thought I pinned one already. It's like new, I can pin a chat. Let me do that again. Oh man, today is just, I randomly felt like streaming and hanging out while I dye yarn and film a bunch of videos. So I'll give a proper introduction in a moment. But I used to, like in 2019 and earlier, I used to just randomly go live to dye some yarn sometimes during the day. And I'm hoping to do more of that going forward as, whoa, I think it's like partly cloudy outside. So as the light outside changes, the light in my kitchen changes, and therefore the camera's not adjusting well. But, you know, it is what it is. And I've got, oh, I need to stop moving. All right, well, let me go through my plan for today. Today, I am going to dye some yarn while I am filming some videos for the Dyepot weekly series. And this kind of behind the scenes live stream is something that I do every month as a Patreon behind the scenes perk for some of the levels on the ChemKnits Patreon. And yeah, I thought that I would show a little bit to everyone kind of what that's like. Now this stream is probably going to be a fair amount longer than when I do a Patreon behind the scenes stream, and I'm also going to be working on like potentially up to 5 different videos at once today as I come out of focus. So yeah, there's going to be a lot going on, but generally the Patreon behind the scenes streams I try to keep to 20 to 30 minutes, so that way if someone wants to watch it later, it's a lot shorter to hop back in on. But today I'm hoping to stream for a few hours until I have to go pick up the kids from school. So yeah, that is the big plan. But if you would like to learn more about the ChemKnits Patreon, I'm dropping a link into the chat. There also should be a link in the video description. And so it's a nice way to help support all the content here, and other perks that I offer for patrons include there's early access to the Dyepot PS series, and patrons also vote for the direction that those videos take every month. And then certain levels also have like permanent coupons to the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop and advance notice of when like I will do a shop restock, so that way you can be the first to get whatever sampler or kit or things that you want when I launch things like that. So it's a lot of fun. Okay, so I've dropped that link in, and then the other thing is that there should be add-ons available for the Spring Mini Skein mini series. I restocked those, and I'm double checking. Probably should have done that first. But there should be, yes, there are more sock blank add-ons and full skein add-ons in both fingering and DK weight. So those have been restocked, and in terms of the samplers themselves, a week or so ago I restocked more, and I think a lot of the different bases are still available. Sparkle seems to be sold out now, but Yak, MCN, and the Merino Silk are back in stock. And there will be another tiny restock once I ship out all the pre-orders, but that's worth going and checking out. Yeah, so I'm hoping to do more streams again, because I really liked doing them. I like streaming, and yeah, I miss it. So yeah, what are we working on today? Well, a lot of options. I'm gonna try to do as much as I can on the counter, so I will be pulling up my hot plate at some point to do some things there, because I have limited tripods, and so I figured versus like bringing you to the stove, I'm gonna do things on the counter And then you might hear me do some of the stove audio at some points, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. But on the docket for today are speckling on a non-superwash yarn, potentially doing some kind of variegated neon on yarn with white neps, dip dyeing into Dharma's Pistachio, maybe dyeing a Whimsical sock blank, and potentially doing like a yarn in a bag kind of thing. Those are the videos that I've prepped. I've filmed the beginning introduction for most of them, and I've got yarn soaking, and so yeah, a lot of times when I'm dyeing yarn, I will work on a lot of different videos all at once, and you know, in various stages, and kind of go back and forth between different videos. And so you'll probably notice, like if you look out of order, that there will be a lot of different videos where I'll be wearing the same thing, and so yeah, I started filming them usually on the same day. Dawn, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you, Dawn. Oh yay, I'm so glad that people could join. Especially when like it was last minute. I had a meeting this morning, so I wanted to start earlier than now, but yeah. And so then as for when these videos will be published, I don't know. A lot of times I do a lot of videos for lab partners where a viewer like you will get shout outs and things like that. And those I usually try to get sooner in the schedule. A bunch of these videos will probably end up, at least temporarily, on the last minute lab partner listing, which is where I have videos that I've already started filming. And so someone can become a last minute lab partner and sort of bump it up the queue. But I keep things there until like I go and I edit and try to get it on the schedule. And so this also just allows me to have some flexibility and have some videos that sometimes they end up sitting for a while until I go and edit them. But it means that if for some reason I can't film for a period of time, like my oven breaks or something, or the dishwasher breaks and I can't use the sink, then I have some content available that I can pull from. And so, yeah, that's sort of what we're working on today. Yeah, well, I sort, like after I do the dyeing process, I take all the clips and I sort them into folders. So each video will have its own folder. And so I do my best to keep track of things, but occasionally I do misplace a clip. But because they're named in like numerical order, like if I can't find washing the yarn, like I can kind of search through everything. And yeah, see the light changed again. I can search through everything for where I would expect that video to be named. And so sometimes I can track things down, but usually it's not bad. But it's also why, like, when I wash yarn, because I'll often do washing of a lot just in order, I'll show the yarn first before putting it in, so that way I can, like, see on the thumbnail which video it's supposed to go to. So that's how I deal with that. But yeah, let's hop to it. Let's hop to it and see where we're going to go. So... I've got some yarn going, and yeah, we'll stand up and start playing. But I am going to try to move my computer further away from the work surface today. Actually, will I be able to just sit over here? Maybe. Let's just check. Yeah, actually I could sit over here. Not where I usually sit, but that might actually work better because I did have like my first big spill the other day. We've got a new fancy schmancy countertop here, or shower curtain, I suppose. Oh, sweetie, it's just the mail. All right, and I've got you all on an iPad, so that way I can see if there's any technical issues. I did order a new webcam, so the countertop webcam is going to be moved to the stove at some point, but I figured that with bringing the DSLR into things, it makes sense to just do one webcam for the dyeing stuff today. And I need the DSLR. New shower curtain, yeah. So the spill, I was actually able to clean it off, but the old shower curtain had which I use this to protect my counter. The old shower curtain had a tiny little, oh, you probably can't see over there, had a tiny little rip in it in one spot. And so I figured that with the spill, even though I was able to clean everything, I figured like, it's time to swap. And if anyone is curious, this is my DSLR camera. It is a Canon EOS 80D, and the lens I shoot with is an 18 to 135 millimeter lens. It's not the kit lens, but it's a pretty inexpensive, relatively speaking, inexpensive. I think there's a more expensive version, but I like it because it allows me to zoom in a little bit more. Which comes in handy. Okay, so we're going to start with the countertop speckles, but why are you not turning on? Because you are off. It's like, that would be why. Okay, so that's there, and let's bring the lens cap back in the other room. So when I'm filming a clip, then you'll hear when I redo things and whatnot. When I'm filming a clip for the video, then I won't respond to questions, but in between I will. So feel free to ask any questions and things like that. Oh, and this will be a yarn mop for everything today. Since our pre-soak didn't have any acid in it, and so now I want to transfer the yarn that we're going to... Crackling lids. All right. The pre-soak had no acid, and so now I want to transfer the yarn we're going to speckle into some water with white vinegar. And this basin is maybe half full, and I think I'm going to go ahead and let's add 4 tablespoons of white vinegar to it. I'm hoping that we will be able to keep the speckles fairly small. And let's go ahead and do this with 200 grams of yarn. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do 200 or 300 grams of yarn before we started, but let's do 2. And now we can get set up to start speckling. Now that the yarn is in the water with vinegar, it doesn't need to soak there very long. So I will get everything else set up, and then we can remove the yarn, add it on the countertop, and start speckling. But since we are going to be using dry dye powders, while I am speckling on the yarn, I will be wearing... Since we are going to be using dry dye powders today, I am going to put on my deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves whenever I am dealing with the dry powders. So I will be sounding a little bit more muffled in a moment. See? You see how I have to redo stuff? And for all of you watching from home, so that's wool of the Andes. This is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. Right here I have a skein of Swish DK. Okay, checking to make sure. There's a delay on the feed, so sometimes I'm like, oh, what's showing through? This skein is dry, and I'm going to be mostly keeping it off camera and using it as a yarn mop for everything I'm doing in this stream. Since a lot of what I'm filming here will become episodes of Dyepot Weekly, I am not going to do a live stream recap. And so, yeah. Normally when I stream, I will do a video with the finished dry yarn at the very end. But yeah, as I said, today, since we're doing everything that will be in its own standalone video, that'll come out later on. And this is the one with no vinegar. Oh, good. I'm glad I added the Swish. And I'm actually going to take off my white sweatshirt because although I mentioned I had a spill, I ended up with like nothing on my clothes. I figured there's no reason to tempt fate, so I'll just wear a black tank top. So for when I do the pistachio, I want to do at least 2 grams, maybe 3. So pistachio is pretty pastel, and so at a 1% depth of shade, there isn't much pigment there. And so We'll try one skein with 2 grams, and then maybe we'll do a second with 3 if the 2 grams ends up not being very much. Or we soak it up way too fast. But yeah, all right, let's get the dyes. Okay, so I have some True Black mixed with citric acid, and in these little spice jars, I have some Pink Orchid mixed with citric acid. Those are 2 colors that strike pretty quickly, and so that's why I picked them for this project. Plus, I already had them mixed up. And so a lot of times when I'm doing videos, sometimes like the colors that I pick are based on these are stocks that I have, these are colors that I have and want to use. Julia, I figured you would be really excited about that one. About the pistachio video. But that one is only going to wait until, we'll probably mix the dye and then still wait to do it, because once I bring the hot plate over, then I'm not going to be able to like move it for a while. So I want to do first the videos that we're going to do on the countertop, and then yeah, we'll carry on. Normally I would never put my respirator mask on the work surface, but this is literally a brand new shower curtain, so it has had no dye on it yet. Okay, and our yarn mop, I'm going to take out and set aside in a pan. For the dip dyeing, I've actually, even though we'll do it on the hot plate, I have water already like hot, ready to go. So I planned that pretty well. Did anyone notice in Keith's video that when he was thinking, he's saying like do-do-do? And that's what I do. I don't know which one of us did it first, but I loved it. I was like, that is totally, I don't think he did that intentionally to parody me. I think that he just did that on his own. But I don't know. He was definitely channeling me. Hey! Yeah, it's been a while since well, I think a lot of ChemKnits dye-along streams are going to be more daytime. I just function better. My brain works better. It's good all around. Okay, I've got gloves, I've got safety glasses, and I've got my respirator, but I want to film one other little clip. Okay. I've already mentioned that the dyes we are going to use today are True Black and Pink Orchid. And so I just wanted to show 2 different ways that I store the dyes, sometimes in these takeout containers, or if I've been using the spice jars already, I will store the dye in here. However, since I'm going to be speckling with my gloved fingertips, I am going to transfer color from this jar into this container so that way I can easily reach in, pinch the dye to then speckle onto the yarn. Okay, I swear there's like mystery water that keeps, what did I do with the yarn? Oh, it's over there. Is there like water on the bottom? I don't know. It's the new shower curtain. Water keeps beating up on it, and I'm like, this feels weird. It is like the cheapest IKEA shower curtain, but it is a little bit different. So we'll see how that goes. But one other thing I do is I often will have like a pile of paper towels prepped off camera. So if there's a spill, I can fix things quickly. Shoot. But I'm actually gonna need to go get more paper towels. I'll probably be on until, the goal is to go until 3-ish, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, I have to go grab another thing of paper towels. I will be right back. all the way upstairs. Oh dear. This, usually if it's a Patreon behind the scenes stream, I'm a little more prepared. So as I said, I try to make those shorter. Okay. Gonna have, okay, that one's damp, some dry, and then let's get our yarn. Now, it may surprise you to know, but when I'm filming, I'm not usually talking to myself behind the scenes. However, I have been known to just narrate what I am doing. So I'm putting on my respirator mask now. Okay. And well, I can see that I can see you on the webcam. Okay. I suppose I didn't quite need my mask on yet, but okay. Yeah, I don't quite need it on yet. Okay. Oh, and of course I'm filming. I've arranged the 200 grams of yarn on the counter, but I now want to spread it out. So that way we not only have the top layer of yarn exposed, but as we speckle, we can get some more yarn from some of the under layers here as well. But since this is a worsted weight yarn, it'll be a little bit easier to get good coverage just because there are fewer strands overall. Ooh. Oh, I don't know about alpaca. So I haven't ever started from like unprocessed fleece before because that involves some like washing and carding and stuff, right? Carding is not a strength of mine. I've only tried a couple of times though. All right. And, okay, so I'm going to do this part not on camera, but you guys can see. See if I can. Okay, I'll just take it all out of the jar. And I can put it back in at the end. And so, yes, I'm wearing my deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves. Okay. Did I already say I squeezed out most of the water? I squeezed out most of the water from the yarn, so that way it is not very saturated, which should help things be nice and small. Just in case, Rebecca. All right. I need to make sure I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Let's start with the pink orchid. And I'm taking just a pinch. And like you might add salt onto something, I am sprinkling little bits of the dye. And the nice thing is that this color is dark enough that I can see the little specks, which I will zoom you in a moment because I know that you probably cannot see. But unlike the heavy speckles where the colors spread and sort of blended together, this is going to give us an opportunity, as I transition to the black, to have some smaller, potentially more discreet speckles. But I could go even lighter than I'm going now. But we're just doing sort of a first layer to see how this will work. But I am seeing, okay, the colors are, some of those first colors I added are now starting to sink in a little bit. It took some time. Okay. Oh, but I guess maybe you can see the black a little bit better. Let me zoom you in. But first I'm going to wipe my hand over on the yarn mop. Which is mostly black. Okay. Let's see. Where's a good spot with the pink? The pink as it's soaking in is pretty subtle. I can see the little pecks of color, and because they're spreading a little bit, I feel like it's going to be a little bit pastel, which isn't a bad thing. The black is also spreading out a bit. In some areas, you can see the specks feel a lot more gray because that dye is sort of sinking in and spreading out a little bit. And so it's getting a little bit diluted onto the yarn itself. But we may have some spots where the color is a little bit more intense as well. But I have a feeling that as all this soaks in, that it will end up feeling a little bit more gray. On a superwash yarn, the speckles on the countertop like this would soak in, but not necessarily spread out as far, because even without heat, they might start to strike to the yarn. And so that is also just something to keep in mind as you're playing around with this kind of technique. But now I think I'm going to wait 5 minutes just to give the dye time to soak in from where we have it here, and then we will flip the yarn to start adding color to the other side. And I am going to cover the dyes, and then I feel comfortable removing my mask. Because the dyes on the counter are wet, and then the dye containers themselves are covered. So, and I'm going to sit down. I'll set a timer and then sit down briefly. Nope, not for 10 minutes. I said 5 minutes. So things I'm going to need to decide today include if we should just go ahead and plan on doing 2 skeins with pistachio. I don't remember how quickly it sets on yarn, and so I'd like to, in theory, use the same pot, but I guess we'll see. And then also we'll need to decide the colors that we use for some other projects. But I guess maybe after this, maybe we'll do the neon white nets, because that I can do in a steam pan cold and then take it to the stove. So I think that's the one that I'll do next. And then once that's over on the stove, then we can do the sandwich bag. If I'm going to do that one today, I might not. But then after that, we can prep the dyes for dip dyeing and then set up the hot plate. Hello, hello. You're just wondering, when I mix with citric acid dye to speckle, what ratio do you find works best? I tend to not measure out the actual dye all the time. I have done it where I measured it out before, but usually I start with a tablespoon or a teaspoon of citric acid and then add like some dye to it until it like looks okay. And if things seem to be too close together, I might add more citric acid. But 1 tablespoon of the mixture lasts like a really long time. So the pink that I'm using has been in a lot of other videos, as has the black. So they've lasted a while. At some point there'll be a Leave No Dye Behind where I just try to use them all up all together. But yeah, I think I first mixed the pink to do heavy speckles with those spice jars. And then I did after that, yeah, I've used them for a lot of other things. Use those colors. So, but that's a really great question. Let's see. And then, yeah, so a lot of times when I have these 5 minutes, that's when I would start working on another video. So I might, while this is sitting here, then go and do the dip dyeing on the stove and move my camera there. But today, since you guys are on the counter, I'm going to try to keep things like as much on the counter as I can. You tend to use more citric acid than dye. Yes, I absolutely use way more citric acid than dye. Yeah, you definitely, the ratio is more than 1 to 1. The ratio is way more than 1 to 1. I think that the one time I measured, I had it at least like 4 or 5 parts citric acid to 1 part dye. But I think that I use even more citric acid to dye, because the goal with it is to some extent, you want the dye to like coat the citric acid a little bit, so then you get it in more spots, but also because then the powder isn't as fine, because the citric acid isn't as finely milled as the dye, then that allows you to spread it out over more area. Even though in some of the black from being zoomed out, it looks, let me actually see if I can, how far I can zoom in. Okay, that's not doing much when I had it zoom. Okay, never mind. Why is that not giving me a good preview of it? That was not that cool. I thought that camera could zoom in more. I don't know why it's not. I mean, it should be able to do more than that. It's so weird. It's like, maybe, it's like the settings allow it to do more than it can. I mean, I could check, yeah, that's not gonna help. All right, let's go suit back up. Okay, but from here I can tell you I am still seeing some of them are more spread out and like pastel, but I am seeing like more discrete sort of specks there. So that is rather nice. Much more so than what I tried previously. Okay. In those 5 minutes, some of the dye has spread out, but I'm still seeing speckles. Little pops of color. So it's working. Now, as I flip the yarn, I don't want to rub it too much on the countertop, because
I know that the colors are going to spread some, but I don't want to make them spread. I would like the speckles to stay sort of put where they are. So instead of rubbing or pressing too much, I'm sort of just lifting and moving the yarn. But now I'm going to go ahead and apply dye to the other side.
Voiceover. Using a small pinch of powder in my gloved fingertips, I applied dye to the other side. I didn't bother to wash my gloves in between the pink and the black because I knew that I wouldn't be introducing too much of the color into these containers, and these aren't the dye stock containers. So therefore, if I do get some contamination between the two, it's not that big a deal. But I wouldn't forever be adding a little bit of black into my pink orchid dye tub. But I wouldn't be forever adding a little bit of black into my pink orchid dye tub, shifting the way that color works. I didn't wait. This time I didn't wait between applying the dye and then moving the yarn to apply more color to other sections. You are more than welcome to wait in between to allow those colors to sink in a little bit, and that way you don't maybe move the powder as you move the yarn. Oh yeah, and then I'll pop back in real time. So I tend to use a lot more citric acid than dye, but I usually don't measure out the dye. So I think that with the black, I started with a tablespoon of citric acid, and then I used either the tip of a tip of a spoon. So for the dye, I'll either take like the very tip of one of these spoons, or sometimes I'll take the dye at the end of one of the spoons. So yeah, it's a lot more citric acid to dye, but I sort of will shift and add more citric acid and stuff if I feel like I don't like the ratio.
Okay, time lapse. Now, since I'm talking to all of you at home, these time lapse clips are actually going to be a little harder to find because a lot of times when I'm doing a time lapse, I will be listening to a podcast or something, and so the audio just looks different visually. So therefore, I'm able to tell where I was and can tell just looking at like the footage where is a time lapse versus not. And so that's just a little fun fact. But right now, since I'm chatting with you, the audio is going to look a lot more like it might look just if I was talking for the sake of the video. But I know that there's some of you watching who don't mind when my videos get a little bit long, but I like to do the time lapses because I enjoy showing the entire process of the actual dyeing, but I don't want the video itself to be like ridiculously long. Okay, that is the black. No problem, my pleasure. I always try to read comments, and so I do reply to questions and stuff in the comment section of my videos, but I enjoy streaming because it's nice to be able to answer some of these questions real time. So that's just really fun for me. Of course, then, I always say in videos, like, you know, I'm thinking really hard when I stop talking as much. Because I try to not have like a ton of blank space audio-wise in the videos, but I like to show, like, I like to show as much of the entire project as I can versus just showing like a 30-second clip and then being like, here's the yarn that looks, well, sometimes the yarn doesn't look anything like it did during the process, but that's just because sometimes colors look way different when it dries, or just the way that the lighting and things are different with my different setups. Cool. Okay, and I'm going to go wipe my gloves onto the yarn mop. Which, normally for this kind of thing, I might not bother having a yarn mop at all. The only reason why I am today is that way I can wipe down the countertop, since I'm doing a lot of various projects here. Let's see. Yep, see, this is blowing out some of those little specks by moving it. That's too bad. Too bad. But we'll see where it goes. The nice thing about something worsted weight is that it Susie, what's it? It dies faster than fingering weight because there's less space to go and refine. But I have a feeling after this video, I'm going to say that I want to try doing finger-controlled immersion speckles, because they will, it's funny, sometimes you can get sharper speckles on the countertop because there's less water, but sometimes having the heat means that things will set faster, and so you might get still spread, but it's just different. So that's just fun. Okay, adding a little bit more black. It's like Rebecca has gone into deep concentration here, but I think probably going to leave it about there. But it's so funny that my fingertips, ooh, I could see some of the pink on here. I was like, my fingertips definitely look pink, but the color is way more black. I'll show you the yarn mop once I'm ready to transfer things. Okay. I am satisfied with the amount of color I have added here. And so now I want to go put this into a steamer basket to steam set the yarn for at least 30 minutes. But I did observe that in some of these areas the colors have spread a lot more, so the speckles are more like a big splotch. It almost looks more like I took a dropper and used like a drop of color onto the yarn versus having some sharp speckles. So I'm going to go and put this in the steamer basket right now. I'm going to clean up the counter, and then I'll show you what the steamer basket setup looks like. But I have showed that in other videos. Okay. And here's the yarn mop and the color. But I wanted to do that quickly because if there's a chance of keeping any tiny sharp speckles, I wanted to do it. So if you're new to watching me and are curious about why I call this a yarn mop, it's because I am literally using it to mop the color off of my work surface, and I use it to wipe the color off of my hands and to just mop up that leftover color. And so I will pop this in the steamer basket after I remove the yarn that we're dyeing. But I'm going to be using that, as I mentioned, over the course of all of the videos of the stream today. Okay. And I am wiping it down with some water as well. But the yarn does a really good job. There was a little bit of color I saw back over there. But yeah, the yarn does a really good job at helping me clean up. Okay. And then as for I could add this back to the container, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put these back in their secondary containers and wash my gloves. I reuse my gloves as much as I can over the course of the day, but if my hands get sweaty, then I'll set them aside to dry and use them a different day. And so I will check the chat shortly.
Whew. But I wanted to remove my mask for now. And let's see, I need to set a timer for 30 minutes. And I think, what did I say? Okay, we're gonna do something without dry powder next. Cool. Cool. But I'm gonna start setting up for that. And I have to think about what colors I want. So we're gonna dye 300 grams of yarn, 200 grams of the yarn with white neps, and 100 grams of just stroll. And okay, color-wise, chat, I'm gonna make a little poll. To camera. I'm gonna make a poll. Okay, I've just added a chat. So like, should I stay with like, you know, sort of like green and blue, purple kind of side of things? Or should I do more like sunset, yellow, pink, orange kind of stuff? I think I have all of those dye stocks made up, so we can play with that. Well, your husband just started narrating everything he did after brain surgery. Oh no. Yeah. I mean, I think that just from filming, sometimes I'm like, well, and next I'm gonna, and then I'm like, oh wait. But yeah, so for the neons, I've got a tiny bit of frozen left, but I also have some Caribbean blue, which is a nice bright blue. Yeah, but since we're live, you guys can help me decide. And I'm gonna add the yarn to my catering steam pan while you think, or while you vote. I'm gonna need to make space. So again, I pre-soaked the yarn in just plain tap water. And the stroll from Knit Picks is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And the yarn with white neps is, I think, 84% superwash merino, 16% cotton acrylic nep. And so you can't see the white neps now, and it might be hard to see the white neps until like it dries and we wash it, because they will soak up the color like a sponge, but they won't absorb the color, if that makes some sense. But I also have a stock blank soaking in here. But yeah, I have a lot of fluorescent lemon. I have a little bit of radioactive. I have a lot of blue. I don't have any fluorescent safety orange, but I've got yellow and pink. So if warm tones went out, we'll make our own orange. And I think I'm planning to do something relatively repeating, but we never know. Oh, and I can go film the steamer basket. While you guys vote, and you can hear me over there. So here, this is my steamer basket, and yeah, even now I'm seeing a lot of spread on the colors. It's only been a few minutes. I'm sure we might have some subtle small speckles, like I see a little bit right there, but I think that mostly our colors have spread out and sort of wicked through the yarn a little bit, which is giving us some really lovely pastels, but we may have to, oh, the camera got steamy. Which is giving us some really lovely pastels. And when it knits up, it'll feel a little bit speckled, but we may need to rethink our technique if we want to get sharper speckles and say try low immersion, but having the dye mixed with citric acid and applying it in really small areas. I figured countertop was worth a shot, but I think that the non-superwash yarn just like wicks up the color way too much. Okay. Oh. Okay, and so you guys can see, oh no, I forgot to put this camera away. Sorry. You found that you make this best speckles with sugar. Sugar does work pretty well too. Salt doesn't work as well, but the sugar, sometimes you can get it bigger, and so that can help to get larger speckles that are more spread out. So that could be helpful with sugar, but I do find on superwash yarn, at least, you can get sharper speckles with citric acid. Okay, I am going to end the poll and cool toned 1. Cool toned 1. So if I was going to use sugar to dilute the dyes, then I would, oh, I should move the camera. If I was going to use citric acid on the dyes, or sorry, sugar for speckles, then I would have vinegar in the yarn already and then do the sugar. Oh, I didn't. Oh, you're going to clean it? Sure. I didn't answer, but you can send me an, I think you have my email. You can send me an email, Kenyatta, and we can chat. But yeah, if you're cleaning it, then I can try it. Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna set this aside, and we're gonna mix some colors, which, like, we're doing cool toned, but it's still gonna be a little bit warm toned because the neons, well, I mean, the yellow is a little bit cool toned. I do want some purple. So yeah, I think maybe we'll do like green, blue, and purple. Oh, those are the short cups. I don't want the short cups. I would like the tall cups. And we're gonna add, okay, you're gonna just go on the floor. I'm gonna add a cup of water, I think, to each of these. Sometimes I have a very, very firm plan, and other times I fly by the seat of my pants a little bit. For our bright neon colors, we are going to be playing with both some fluorescent acid dyes and a blue, because there isn't a fluorescent blue in Dharma's line. We're going to be playing with Purple Pop, Radioactive, a little bit of fluorescent lemon, and then some Caribbean blue. Now, with all of these colors, the little bit goes a very long way, and so that is always worth keeping in mind. All right. But yep, we are dyeing by feel, so we can dilute the colors more, add more or less, and things like that. Need to make sure. I know my lens is blocking your field of view a little bit, but if I do that so I can see. Okay. That's not bad, I don't think. I think that I want to have like a blue, a green, and a purple here today. And so we're going to start in the middle with the blue. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the Caribbean blue to this. And that'll give us a really nice blue. Now for our green, we may as well start with a little bit of radioactive I have on hand. Now, there isn't a fluorescent green pigment either. What I think we have here is really some fluorescent lemon with a blue pigment in there. So I am also going to add a little bit of fluorescent lemon and then a little bit of Caribbean blue. And we are very, very much going by feel. It'll be hard to mix up more of the colors, but if we need more color, then we can just mix another green or something and then use that. But we can sort of stir this up to check and see. That is a very beautiful neon green, and it's a different green than, say, just radioactive would be, which feels a little bit more like acid green. And then for our purple, we're going to start with some purple pop, but this is a very pink color, a very, very pink color. It does break beautifully, but you'll see, I mean, that's purple pop. It's very, very pink. So to this one, I'm also going to add a little bit, just a little bit of some blue. Oh dear. A little bit of some blue could give us sort of like a neon purple kind of effect. And now I think I'm going to add another ½ cup of water to each of these, so that way there's more volume for me to apply to the yarn. But then we can start dyeing the yarn. Oh. And all these colors break. They all break. But yeah, I feel like that this shower curtain is different. I mean, it's a new shower curtain, but it definitely feels different to me. But see, this is why I use the shower curtain, because like if dye drips, then it's really easy to clean up. But maybe it's because the other curtain was like really, really old, but it's feeling more water like resistant. I don't know. It's amusing me. Okay, the radioactive, we may rinse out that bottle because that's basically an empty now. But let's set these aside. And, oh, I wanted ½ cup of water more in each one. But so you will all know when this video finally comes out why, oh God, that's why I moved my computer, but none of it ended up on the floor. So that is good. But you will all know why I decided to start this one cold. Normally I may not, but there are some perks to starting cold because you can work the colors through a little more. It gives you a little bit more time to adjust things. Okay, let's see. All right, you guys can see that. Thanks for joining. All right, let's see. The chat is small, so I will come when we hit a stopping point. I will check back in, but I need to adjust this camera. I might move this over here and make sure, okay, we are still in frame. If I stick that out, does that block? That might block you guys. Very little, okay. I'm gonna move the camera over, I think. There. Hopefully that will be less in the way. Ooh, I'm gonna need a new memory card. Ooh. I should have enough time. I was like, that is one thing I did not consider. Okay. Today we are going to apply the dye cold with no acid, and then we will add acid and take it over to the stove to heat set. But let's go ahead and start with our blue color. And so there has not been any water in here yet beyond what I have just added. And so now I can press the color through and sort of move it through the yarn a bit. And you can see that we're getting pretty good coverage here. Now it helps that the colors that we are working with today are colors that need more acid, heat, and time to set overall. So that is sort of working in our favor a bit here. But I can flip the yarn, and then in areas where, oh, I would like a little bit more color, we can come in and add that color and sort of massage it in. Sometimes this is a hand painting technique I might do followed by, say, steam setting, but eventually I think we'll be adding enough liquid into our yarn that we can do an immersion heat. And if not, if it ends up not being dripping, then we can make the choice to go ahead and steam set this yarn. There's nothing to prevent us from doing that. Now with our green, I'm going to focus these initial pours to the end. Oh, that's such a pretty green. But then we can work this color further down eventually to combine a little bit with the blue. But we'll just see how far these colors are going, and then even, you know, we can flip the subset of our color to add a little bit more. But you can see now as I'm squishing it, we're starting to get more liquid in these areas. And so little by little, we are increasing the total water volume we have in here. But we'll focus on this intermediate section once we have added more color. Let's go to our purple. And see, as I'm doing that, we may as well stretch this out to give us a little bit more room to work with. And once again, I mean, if I walk around, then it's a little bit less awkward. To try to pour it as much as possible. And here, aha, here we see some breaking. Already, there's no acid in here. And we could see the pink separating from that little bit of blue. I don't know what the blue pigment is in the purple pop, but, oh, okay, it did sort of soak through a fair amount. But that just always, like, tickles me. How much it does that. But I am just helping this color work through a bit. And so yeah, there'll be the most breaking over in our purple section, which also seems to be the least pigmented overall. I think I maybe added less dye there because
purple pop is a little bit frightening sometimes. So now I'm working, since we're on the purple section anyway, working and bringing more of this color towards the blue. But you can see that there is still a fair amount of color over here. When I squish it, it's not looking clear yet. And so, yeah, but again, we have no acid in here. And so once we add that acid, then some of these colors may start striking, but this allows us to get some coverage to start with. And I do want to rinse the hands. Before going back to the green. But yeah, the water level is still pretty low. Oh, may have some transfer in sections, which is okay. I don't mind if it's not perfect. But I should now, when I'm like flipping and moving things, take care and pay a little bit of attention to it. Okay, I think that the blue sort of needed here at the interface with the purple. And again, I can always mix up a little bit more depending on what is needed. But yeah, I'm checking for areas that are a little bit lighter. We will be, once we add the acid, we will be working the colors through everywhere again. But yeah, when I press, I see that blue color. So we are able to spread it out really, really nicely. And then for the rest of our green, sort of putting it there. Huh, for dyeing by feel, I sure picked a reasonable amount of the colors. I'm pretty happy. But now I want to start adding some acid. And so what I'm going to do is with our 3 cups that are a little bit off camera, so you can't see it, but they are mostly empty. But I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vinegar to each one and half a cup of water. You guys can see them, because we may as well use up this little bit of dye that we have. And then we can also, at the same time, add a little bit more water. All right. And so this way, when we add the acid on to the yarn, we can spread it out a bit more. We're also increasing the water volume that we have in here, so that way we can just take the steamer basket over to the stove. Oh, funny, I'm seeing those pinks spread. Yeah, and so all of that will help. But I do want to quickly sort of press it through, working from the blue to our other colors. And there's not a ton of water here. I will probably increase the volume again in a little bit. But now let's take this over to the stove. But first, Rebecca, screenshot. And I am absolutely going to need another memory card. Oh dear. Oh snap, that worked fine. Okay. May want to add a little bit more water. Let's see. No, we can be okay to start. I think I'll probably cover it with foil.
so that way it doesn't evaporate that fast. But, aha, and I have a light on my microwave now, which I'll show you in a moment. Oh no! Oh, okay, I probably put it on motion sensing. Okay. Screenshot. Okay, I'm gonna turn the heat on medium. We are across 2 gas burners on my stove. I will be reducing it to low after a little bit, but I'm also going to, at this time, cover the pan with some tin foil so that way we can trap some of the steam and the heat in here. But I'm going to check back in about 10 minutes. Okay, and we'll probably add more water then. And the timing is good. There were 5 minutes on the timer for our first yarn. And yeah. Have I dyed camel hair yarn? No, but I have a camel sample on hand. Not for today, but I do have one in my possession. Thank you. I'm really glad you guys like the colors. Thank you so much. Okay. Next up, I think we'll do something a little bit silly. Do I have a bag? I'm going to need a new bag. Checking to see if I have a Ziploc bag over here. We are going to dye some yarn in a Ziploc bag and with dry dye powder and then add water, and it's going to be silly fun. But I'm going to need you all to pick some colors. And so I think that for a whimsical blank, I'm going to play with, I don't know if that's showing up on screen. Okay, I'm going to play with these colors on a sock blank if we have time. We're also going to be playing with Pistachio today. So I think I need 2 colors to use for the sandwich bag. And so certainly I could use 2 of these colors over here. So over here I've got Pistachio, Hyacinth, Baby Blue Eyes, Sage Leaf, Peach Blush, Valentine Blush over here. And then I've got some reds, Cabernet, some pinks, Mustard, Tobacco Leaf, Intense Iris, Electric Violet. I've got Ivory, which I don't think I want to use, Aubergine, Forest Green. So I guess those are the colors I have down here. If there are any requests, I can pull from some of that. But you guys can think about that while I need to figure out another memory card. So I never ooh, shoot. Okay, I'm gonna have to go in where my, that's not gonna fit. Shoot, I did not think this through. Okay. Okay, hopefully the stream won't get messed up. I'm gonna have to unplug the computer, remove the mouse, put in an SD card. Oh dear. So I never delete things off of the SD card until, does this just have space? No, it does not. I never delete it until I've edited the video. View large icons. Please let this one be old enough. Oh, that's super old. Okay, this looks like last summer. Okay, but can you load so that way I know that I can delete all of this? Becca? I think I can delete all this. Okay, let's just go and delete all of that. Oh yeah, this is all super ancient. Hopefully that cleared up enough space. Cool. Okay, hopefully the stream did not get too messed up during that. Thank you all. I was like, oh no, I need a place to plug in the like SD card reader. Okay, I'm gonna reduce that heat to low. And I'm gonna need to remember to get the footage off of this one. Oh dear. Okay, and I'll show you the speckled yarn after I take it out of the steamer basket. Tongs. But I'm not going to be able to show that to you. Oh, and I need to set a new timer for 5 minutes. And let's see, moving the tripod around. Oh dear. I've got the like pot for dip dyeing, like the water hot there. Okay. I'm curious to hear what you guys think with colors. Okay. It's been 30 minutes. Okay, I have to wait for it to defog. And yes, I am seeing, okay, I see some tiny speckles in some of the pink. Okay. I think that getting it into the heat fast is key to not give things time to spread out more. There are some tiny specks, but we will take a closer look at this later on. I'm going to set this aside to cool so we can wash it. To everyone at home, I will show you momentarily. But for now, our yarn mop that has like no color on it, I'm gonna just pop it into the steamer basket while we wait. I don't know if I'm using the steamer basket for anything else. I'm actually gonna turn it off for now. I suppose what we're doing in the sandwich bag, we might then steam. But yeah, I figure we may as well set that color a little bit. And so here is, I don't really want to introduce moisture into the dyes, but here's the yarn. Oh, I can't see it all. I was like, I need to see. I need to see what you can see. So here's the yarn. The colors spread out a lot. But it's not that surprising. So I need a spot to put you though. Okay, you can hang out there. Okay, so the plan for this project, as you guys are thinking about colors with what I have, is that I'm going to have dry yarn, put it in a bag, add some dye powder, and then we're going to add some water and squish things together. So I did see one comment about darks. I'm going to come and look at the chat. But yeah, so the yarn's probably going to be wild. We're probably not going to have a ton of coverage. But let me see. Love, okay. You like Ziploc bag dyeing? Oh, great. Let's see. Dyeing yarn looks so fun and relaxing. Can't wait to get some skeins and get started. Yay! It is so much fun. And it can be very, very relaxing. It can be stressful at times, but it all depends on what you choose to do. So you can absolutely choose to do everything in a very like relaxing, low-key way. Or you can choose to do things that are like more like technical, strict recipes and things like that. I do have an extremely technical video that will be coming up later this spring. Ooh, sage leaf and hyacinth would be pretty. Now the colors as we squish them are going to mix. And so that is something to keep in mind because we're going to put, the dry powders in, add water and sort of squish. And so having things, it could still look really, really cool, hyacinth and sage, or it could blend too much. Sage leaf and pink blush would be very springy. That would. Mustard and brown, that actually could be fun and different, a different kind of palette that I haven't done before. And so let's see, I have, I think that in one of them I did like a bunch of blues. In one of them, did I do like yellow and blue? Even though there's so many different color dye, can 2 different powder dyes be mixed together for a 3rd color stock solution? Absolutely, Kay. Absolutely. So you can make like a custom recipe, and I have color mixing videos, but say that you like the green that you get that is 3 parts yellow and 1 part blue. You could mix your dye stock to have a 1% stock solution and start off with 2.5 grams of blue, 7.5 grams of yellow, and make a 1 liter 1% stock solution of that mixture. And so absolutely, you can mix your own custom colors in a stock. Sage leaf breaks a little bit blue, I think. Okay, I'm gonna peel back the foil and tell y'all what I see, but I see steam coming out, so that's a good sign. Look at me using covers, everyone. Okay. It has been 10 minutes, and we are nice and steamy. My little spoon. And actually, the green is looking pretty clear. The blue is looking pretty clear. And I only see a hint of pink over there. Goodness, maybe I should cover things more often. But I do want to add some more water. I feel like we have plenty of acid, so I'm not worried about that, but I do just want a little bit more water in here. And I'm going to go ahead and heat this for another 20 minutes, but it looks like things are setting really, really well. I am shocked that those have set so well. That is great. Okay, so maybe let's do, maybe I'll set up a couple color I can move this. Maybe I'll set up a couple color combinations and then we'll do another poll. So that way you all can pick. Off color topic, but you want to make a coral color. I mean, peach blush, maybe with a little bit more pink. Okay, so we've got some suggestions. So there was tobacco leaf and like honey mustard. I think tobacco leaf breaks, so that could be really, really cool. I think there was like a sage leaf and hyacinth I saw. We could also do a sage leaf and peach blush. And let me pick one more. How about flamingo and baby blue eyes? Okay, I'm going to set up a poll. And so these, which colors for sandwich bag? Because I think I'm allowed to do 4 options. Okay, so we can do sage leaf. And then, what did I do? Flamingo. Okay. And so again, I just popped up a poll. The technique for this, the technique that we're going to do is going to be to add the yarn to a Ziploc bag, add some of the dye powders throughout, and then we're going to start adding water and squishing it. So very fun, very random. Yeah, but it looks like, oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna leave this up for a few minutes, and I'm going to go on a quick little break, a quick commercial break, and then I will pop back in. So chat and vote, and if new people come in, remind them to vote, and I will be right back. All right, I'm back, everyone. Oh, and I'm hiding I should move my face. Here we go. No. Oh, I kept selecting to move the wrong camera. All right. Yeah, so I'm gonna do some sandwich bag dyeing. We're filming a lot of episodes of Dyepot Weekly today. So I'm working on a lot of, well, so far, this will be the third video that I'm working on, but the goal or the plan is at least, well, we'll see if we get to all 5. I'm confident we'll get to 4, and depending on how long the 4th one takes, we may be able to do 5. But yeah, all right. So looks like our winner today is the Sage Leaf and Hyacinth. So using the green and purple colors that we see in the middle. Thank you everyone so much for voting in the poll. It's really fun to let you guys decide the colors. But that brown and mustard combination is something that I am very intrigued by. And I mean, like, a lot of these are things that I play with a lot. So therefore, you know, I like a lot of the combinations. But yeah, I am excited. Okay, so let's go get set up. Nope, sorry. I'm not pausing again. I'm not pausing, but oh wait. While I have your attention, please make sure you're subscribed to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. That is the biggest way you can help support the content here. And if you want to learn more about the tools and stuff I'm using, I do have a bunch of links and affiliate links down in the video description. I am an affiliate with a few companies, but I also have non-affiliate links to things I use down in the description as well, because I want to make it easy for you guys to play with dyeing yarn and try to replicate my results. So I have all that down there. And in the pinned comment in the chat is about the 2022 Spring Mini Skein mini series. These are 120-gram sets of mini skeins with fun extras in them. Some of these extras are really, really awesome. And, well, they're all awesome, but some are like really awesome and things, there's something I've never done before, which I believe that, I mean, there's a spoiler in the listing if you want to find out more. And so, yeah, and the add-ons are back in stock as well. And so if you ordered a sampler already and would want either a sock blank or 100-gram full skein add-on to your set, you can place that order separately and just message me and I'll try to combine shipping as best I can. All right. Now we're gonna go do this. I did not start off today by filming an intro for this one. Let's see. Oh, sage leaf and hyacinth. Okay. I think that everything else is going to go away right now. So we'll do the sandwich bag, then we'll mix up the dyes for the dip dyeing, and I'll bring out the hot plate. That is my plan. That's the deal. That's the rule. Maybe I'm quoting... Oh no, maybe I'm... maybe I'm quoting the book with no pictures. Because, you know, when you are, I don't remember how old I am at the moment, when you are a 38-year-old mother, you quote a lot of Elephant and Piggy and Book with No Pictures and things like that. You can't really see the Ziploc bag. But we're going to start from the introduction this time. Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are going to play around with the sandwich bag method for dyeing some yarn. Oh goodness, and everyone watching the live stream, if you just are tuning in, I'm filming episodes of Dyepot Weekly right now, which is why, like, you might hear... I don't know, I feel like my voice changes a bit when I feel like I'm in presenter mode versus just streaming mode. But yeah, so that's what's going on. So there isn't going to be a live stream recap from this video because there will eventually be Dyepot Weekly episodes. We are going to be adding yarn and dye into a bag, then adding water, acid, and squishing everything up to see what kind of colorway we create. Today, we will be dyeing 100 grams of Knit Picks Stroll Fingering Weight yarn. This yarn is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And if you'd like to learn more about it, I do have an affiliate link down in the video description. Today, we are going to be dyeing with two different colors of Dharma acid dye, hyacinth and sage leaf. Now, the colors that we have on the yarn will be placed in separate areas, but they will also blend as we squish things together. And so I have a feeling that we will end up with something very, very pretty. Sage leaf definitely breaks and can sometimes lean a little bit blue, and hyacinth is a fairly bluish purple. So I think that even if they mix completely, we will still end up with something really, really beautiful. Yeah, we will eventually end up combining everything in this gallon size Ziploc bag. This one isn't Ziploc brand, so like press lock? I don't know what you call these without the brand name. But we will be putting them inside this gallon storage bag, and it's a lot of fun. It adds a lot of randomness to it. And I decided rather than pre-soaking the yarn, we would start with it dry as we add it to the bag. So it's going to just be dry, and I will be putting on my respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves once we start using the dry dye powder. But we'll take some powder add it to spaces, sort of move the powder around on the dry yarn a little bit before we add the liquid. So I'm excited to see where we end up here. Let's see. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you like watching my videos. Yeah, I'm starting with dry yarn today. I think that there were some questions in another stream about if you could speckle onto dry yarn, and you can't really, but I figured that this would be a fun way to like apply dry powder to dry yarn and then get it wet, and we'll see what happens. This is a lot more like tie-dye feeling almost, even though it's not tied. Okay, mask on. Glasses on, gloves on, and away we go. Of course, the camera battery. Where is my, okay, there's the other one. Hopefully it's good. Okay, and here we go. Let's start with the sage leaf. This color, ooh, look at it. You can see all the different colors in there. This color definitely does break. Sometimes if I mix it in a stock, the color changes by the time I get down to the bottom. But I am coming and sticking my hand like deep in the bag, just sort of sprinkling it on. And I'm even going to move the yarn a bit. I want some coverage. So we're just adding some good amounts of this dye on. And I can even wipe my gloves onto the dry yarn to remove some of the dye. I'm going to have to be a little bit careful when I'm dealing with the hyacinths so we don't contaminate that bottle. But now let me go rinse off my glove. And I'm actually coming back to the yarn mop that I'm using for today's stream. And if we end up with something totally random and ugly from everything we do today, then we'll over dye this. So, but that's what I'm using just off camera all day. Okay, let me be able to zoom in. So if you look at the dry dye on the yarn, the effect is really cool. It can even almost look like a bit of, okay, that actually looks better. Nope, there's a reflection. I'm like minimizing the reflection. There. So if you look at the dry dye through the bag, it does almost look like a glaze or speckles and really, really cool. However, the yarn is not dyed yet. You do need water and acid to dye yarn with acid dyes. So that's why that's just like the beginning step of this project. Yeah, I'm sure that like if we were to go and wash the yarn now, it would be stained, but we would not be able to but it would probably still pick up some color. Okay. Now let's add in our hyacinth. And I'm going to start adding some, this color is a gorgeous color. It's one that I hadn't used much and I started using more often, and I am a bit obsessed with it. So I am trying to not touch things too much. But now I grabbed another pinch, and I will not be going back in the bag again. I grabbed another pinch to just apply a little bit of color in another portion
of the bag, but now I'm going to go wash my glove and we'll get ready to add water. Wash my glove, and there's a tiny bit of dye right there that we can pick up. So, yarn mops are awesome. Looks like mold. It does look a little bit like mold. Let me quickly see about screenshot, or actually even screenshot, and we can do like two sides there and an arrow, Rebecca, to what the yarn looks like with water. I leave verbal notes to myself all the time, which helps for the editing process. Okay, let's do, where is it? Oh, it's right here. Okay, chat, question time. No, I'm not gonna, never mind, I'm not gonna add acid yet. Okay, once we have things like closed up well, then I will take my mask back off, but for now I'm gonna have it on. I have here 500 milliliters of just plain water, and we will add acid eventually, but I thought it would be fun to just start with some water and see where we go. So I added about half of it, and now I'm going to close up the bag and try to remove as much of the air as possible, and hopefully this water on the counter was not a leak. So we will hope that. But actually, to help us with this, which basin? Actually, let me go back to that other video. Oh, I can take my mask off now.
It's closed. I was like, okay, let me go to the stove and then I'll pop back over. Okay. The 20 minutes are up, and I've used this foil a lot and just rinsed it, but the yarn looks great. It looks really, really good. I'm not going to check on it again because it did look, actually, I'm going to take this all the way off. I am going to now turn off the heat, and I think I'll put the cover back on while things cool. Now, we do see some of the white naps. Let me zoom in. You can sort of see them around here, but they should have a bit more contrast once we've washed the yarn and it's dry. But since the colors aren't that deep, who knows, we may not end up with very much contrast at all. Color-wise, the yarn with the white neps and the stroll look incredibly similar right now, but again, that may change once we've washed and dried the yarn. We will have to see. But I do want to let the yarn cool completely before we go and wash it. Okay. So yeah, the naps, you could barely see the white naps right now. Oh, we can barely see it. Okay. Okay, I placed the bag in a catering steam pan because in the off chance that we pop the bag or something as I try to remove even more air from it. Because the more air, the less air we have, the easier it'll be to squish. Yeah, we just don't want, if we pop it, then we won't spill dye all over the floor. But now we can squish. And so, yes, I see a lot of green right now. But hyacinth is a funny color. And cold with no acid, it disappears. And this is something that I learned over the course of filming another video. And I kept adding more and more and more of the hyacinth. And I totally forgot that how much it disappeared. I kept adding more, and it didn't really start showing up until I added acid. And then when I added heat, it really, really showed up. I just added, I'll add the rest of the water. And then again, we are going to try to remove as much air as possible, or actually, with the top of it up, I can squish this a bit because it won't pop. But it looks like we've got pretty good coverage of the color already in here. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to add some acid. We've only used 500 milliliters of water, but let's go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. And then we will squish this as well to work the acid through. I'm going to close it most of the way and squish. Okay. And for now, I would say we have something that looks green with a few hints of blue. Not very dramatic, but I am seeing over time more and more of those purple notes sort of come out into the yarn. So I'm curious what this may look like after, say, 20 minutes. So I'm going to set this aside, and then we'll take another peek at it in a little while. And I do want to make sure, because I can do like a plus, Rebecca, screenshot, maybe like with a plus water, or yeah, screenshot now that I'm blocking some of that light. Cool. Cool, cool. Yeah, so the video that I was mentioning with the hyacinth not showing up right away, I think that's coming out sometime this month. It's like a video where I use like a lot of silk and stuff, and I'm doing a cold setup, and I added the hyacinth, and I tap it in, and I'm like, okay, that just like disappeared completely. And then there's a moment where I have it covered on the stove, and I remove the foil, and I'm like, look at the color now. I totally forgot about that fact with that color. But yeah, oh, I want to set a timer for 20 minutes. And I'm going to pop that yarn mop back into the steamer basket that isn't on. But we're going to get set up for dip dyeing right now. And hopefully that water is a little bit hot. Ooh, I need to think about how I want to set up the hot plate. I guess I'll set it up this way. But actually, no, I should mix the dye stock first, and then we'll set up the hot plate. This is actually gorgeous. Like, the colors are so soft. Okay. So I'm going to need to get, oh, that wasn't dye. Sage leaf. No, pistachio. Pistachio is the color we're going to try to break. Yeah, so I'm going to film a little voiceover. I'll come and check the chat before we actually measure it out. Where does it go? Okay. Oh my God, why won't you focus, camera? Okay. Screenshot, Rebecca, and then voiceover. I put on my deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves, and then measured out 2 grams of the pistachio dye powder because it is a fairly pastel color. And even though we're going to dip dye, which will mean that the depth of shade of the deepest amount of color will be higher than a 1%, and then the pastel will be less than a 1%, starting with 2 grams of dye just has more pigment available. And we can see if we need to up the amount of dye more to explore what this color does. But I dissolved the dye that I measured out in some hot tap water in an unspecified volume of water. And, well, now we'll go set up the dye bath. Shoot. Oh, I was like, I don't know where my scale is. And then I found it. But I'm going to sit down and check chat. And hello. My hair is a wreck. Yes, thank you, Valerie. Everyone, please give the video a thumbs up if you are having fun dyeing yarn or watching me dye yarn. And please make sure you are subscribed so that way you don't miss live streams or any other videos. I always post new videos every Tuesday and Friday morning. You really want to try this bag technique. The results I've gotten have been super cool. Thank you. Yeah, I've just enjoyed like how the colors have combined. Hot plate question. Did the bottoms get hot too? No. The hot plate I have is a Cuisinart like double burner hot plate, and it has like some legs it stands on, and so it does not get hot underneath. Not that I would move it when it is really hot, but having it on top of a shower curtain like hasn't been an issue. Yeah, so with this particular hot plate, it wasn't an issue, but I'm always nearby and like keeping a close eye on things to just make sure. But I do have a video a video coming up where I play around with the hot plate specifically to dye yarn. And even, is that the video where I had the spill? I don't remember now. No, it's not the video where I had the spill. But yeah, so even though that ends up being a lot more about like the yarn that I dye anyway, the hot plate worked really well. And I've been using it more often lately. Yeah, so I'm not sure with the hyacinth if it's the acid or heat or both that makes it show up, but in some of the videos where I do color swatching of a lot of colors, like I think Chinese red did this as well. Like you added the powder and tapping it in, it kind of disappeared and then showed up later on. And so, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what all that's about. Yeah, I don't think I've linked to the one I got here, but it does work rather well. But for doing the dip dyeing, I have the water hot already because otherwise will take a really long time. And don't smash your devices. Oh, my kids would be so happy. All right, let me go back up here and we will measure and mix this dye. So then we can get the hot plate set up so that way it can get hot, because that might take some time. Even with it being like hot-ish already, it's just been on the low. Yeah, so that way I will be able to sort of move it with no problems. There's my mask. Where are my glasses? It's like a yard sale over here. Oh, there are my glasses. As I like pop things all around.
I love this mask, but it does like dry out my throat wearing it. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes it Or maybe it's just that it's harder to breathe because it's a pretty intense one. But it means that like the other kinds of masks I've been wearing out and about are like really pleasant in comparison. Okay, let's do this. Camera. Oh, does the battery die? Yeah. Battery. Hopefully the battery, yes, the battery charged. Okay. I have a few batteries, but it like didn't charge the last time, so I moved to a different outlet. And I was like very nervous about that. Okay. Time lapse. The reason why I started doing these as time lapses is because I found that I would pause a lot when talking, which made the editing not super easy and less fun. Nailed it. That is 2 grams on the nose. Okay, now I need to heat up hot water. Or heat up hot water. It's going to be noisy. Okay, this is going to take a while. Normally I turn the water on to start heating up when I measure out the dye. There we go. If I'm mixing a lot, I will leave the heat on, but that's not what I'm doing right now. And Indy is crated and barking. So look how yellow this color looks. It ends up being like less muddy feeling. But actually, this won't need to be spread out very much. It kind of went in pretty easily. Okay, it's not perfectly dissolved, but it's going to go in the hot water. But I am amused because, like, I was like, okay, that was like 2 seconds. Okay, so this is my hot plate. I'm going to actually have it set up with the burners facing you. But I do want to make sure that they are both on off right now. I'm going to plug it in and start turning that one on to high. Then I'm going to bring over this water that is already hot. I did that to sort of give us a bit of a chance to have things work a little bit easier. And I can't really read the comments very well from here, but I will read them shortly. Okay. See, it is steamy. And I put a lid on so I wouldn't lose a lot of water volume. Okay, I'm going to need to raise the camera up.
I am on my electric hot plate today, but I did heat up the water on the stove, so hopefully it'll heat up a lot faster. But the pistachio looked rather brown when I first started mixing it, and then now it is a lot more blue, which is very, very interesting. And actually, what's left in the cup are a little bit of some blue pigments. There you go, now you can see. And so this is why this could be a color that breaks. But colors dissolving, oh, look at how blue this is. Colors that dissolve at different rates doesn't necessarily mean they'll bind to the yarn at different rates. But if we had a dye stock of this and we're pouring the dye onto yarn, I would expect to see some breaking and that color to change over time, like we see with sage leaf. Okay. The water is quite warm already, but I do want to let things heat up a little bit more because I would like the hot plate to start to get pretty hot. And then we will dip dye 100 grams of our non-superwash yarn. Okay, chat, I'm going to come sit down with you in just a moment. Okay, that is still hot. This was from our yarn mop. I'm going to set it down. You can go over here. You can go over here. I am going to stir this. Pistachio breaks with speckling. I think that I used it the one. Has that video come out yet? I don't remember if the video has come out. I used it once with, not exactly for some speckling, but for some color, and then I switched to moss. I'm completely blanking on which video that was, though. That was definitely not the recent chain ply yarn one. I am completely blanking on what video that was. Oh goodness, and the pot isn't even on camera really well for you. I will move the camera up when it's time to go, and there is just like a light reflection on there. Now I want to see what video that is. Studio. Not that one. No. No, not on those. No. What on earth video was it? It was the roving. Applying dry dye powder to the roving. Dyepot Weekly 349. I used some pistachio there, but I couldn't really see it very well, so I added moss instead. So I'm not sure how much the pistachio was breaking. That's the video. Oh, and I can, hello, show you my pretty face. You want to start dyeing in the garage, you need to get a hot plate. The Cuisinart one works pretty well. It's the one that, so there was one summer, maybe it was summer 2020, when I started doing some more dyeing outside. I was doing some natural dyeing, and maybe that's when I had a hot plate that I was like, this doesn't seem to be heating up, and I realized the old hot plate wasn't working. And so then I bought this one because it had 2 burners, and so yeah, this actually has been sitting in the garage until I brought it inside, cleaned it, because it had been in the garage for a bit. But actually, I'm seeing a lot of steam come off the pot, which is good. But yeah, I think that otherwise, like in the Nomad review, I used pistachio at a 1% depth of shade. But those are really the only times I've used it so far. With the antique mauve, maybe. I don't remember the pink that I used, but maybe it was the antique mauve. I'm having like a deja vu moment. No, I use it with Valentine's blush. The Antique Mauve was the one I did on the chain ply yarn, and that one I used moss, but not pistachio. That was the one. Oh man, but yeah, so I'm like, oh no, yeah. Sometimes I get like a color palette in my head, and then like I go again and again and again, and so I'm like, I need to try to mix things up. But also then if I have a lot of leftover dyes and a lot of dye stocks, then like this is why I like the Cabernet. So I filmed the color challenge, and I made those dye stocks. So the color challenge recently was published, but that came out for patrons in March. And so I filmed the first one maybe in January, and maybe that's when I was doing it. And I have so much of that color left because it's so intense. It's beautiful, but very, very intense. But yeah, sometimes the line between what's a Leave No Dye Behind versus Dyepot Weekly is very, very, very thin. Oh, tomorrow's video will feature hyacinth. That is it's a wintry colorway. Was originally what I was going for, but definitely spring now. This is what I said sometimes about, like, I'll film things, and if there's not a lab partner, then like there's not pressure for it to come out that fast. And until recently, I feel like the last 2 years I've been like editing like a week ahead. Like I haven't had a ton of buffer very often. But on the last day of March, I finished the last video that was coming out in April. So I had all of the videos ready to go for April. And so that was super exciting. And yeah, so therefore, like, you know, I'm getting like ahead, which means that I feel free to like stream. But of course I'm working on, we may, depending on how long this one takes, we may not get to the 5th. But you know, I started 4 different videos today. And then probably after the kids go to bed is when I'll do all the washing of the yarn. Don't know what we might be ordering in for dinner unless I'm able to do that. Like, actually maybe they'll hang out once they get home and let me do the washing. That would be ideal. Lost my train of thought. But yeah, having like videos that are, even if they're not edited for a while, having that ready to go also just helps with like my stress and things, because then I'm like, okay, you know, something breaks in the kitchen, I'm okay, I have content ready to go. Oh, I need to turn off the stove. Because we have that yarn mop that has pretty much no color on it still, but I figured may as well apply some heat to it. There are like little globbies. We're getting some movement. Like this is almost ready for dip dyeing. Let me see. Of course, the other camera is still on, but I need to be able to see. Okay, that's cool. Oh dear. What was that timer for? Oh, right. Can you guys see this? Of course it's loud because of the pot, but after just 20 minutes, whoa! Okay, this is gonna be so cool. But after just 20 minutes, I see a lot more of the purple coming through. But when I lifted it up, guys, we got speckles. We got some blue speckles from that sage leaf. Those blues were slow to strike. Oh my goodness. Well, that was super unexpected. That was so unexpected. All right, let me show you, because I don't know how much you could see. I'm trying to bring it really close. Yeah, you can see the blue speckles. That's just wild. Wild. So the color sage leaf is a tricky color, and I've definitely observed over the years when I have used it in a dye stock that the very end, the dregs, whatever is left, will be a lot more blue than what I'm using first. And so some of these blue pigments absorb a lot slower, dissolve slower, or something. And boy, is that what we see here, because of the way that they showed up. That is wild. I'm not sure how much these are going to spread out or what, or if they're just like on the bottom there, or if we'll find some of that throughout all of the yarn. Or if we'll find some more of that throughout the entire yarn. But we definitely see some more purple right now. And so actually, I think that what I want to do is go ahead and steam set this yarn now. I could leave it to sit overnight, but we are going to go put this in a steamer basket right now. First, I gotta remove the yarn knot that is still pretty much colorless. We might need more of it if we get to the sock blank. That was so wild. Okay. So I am going to add the yarn with those bluish speckles. I'm going to put those maybe on top so I can see it. But I am going to open the bag a bit so that way it doesn't like fill up too much. Otherwise, there's a relationship between temperature and volume of air. And so it's good to just have a crack there so that way the bag doesn't expand too much. And that is not the correct lid. And so I'm going to pop the lid on, and now we're going to steam set this for 30 minutes. However, with this technique, you could let the yarn sit for a couple of days outside and then remove it and steam set it later on. But we're going to just steam directly in the bag to see if we can preserve some of those speckles. That is so wild. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, we're about ready to dip dye. How are we doing over here? The next yarn is cooling off nicely. Gonna recycle the foil because I ripped it. And I think we're about ready to dip dye, but actually I'll check the chat first. Oh my gosh. I am like so entertained. So entertained by that. It's like a little rainbow trout, very, very much. We need a little bit more pink, but yeah, you bring some pink in there, very rainbow trout. Sage leaf and hyacinth is one of your favorite combinations. Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. Like, you might think sometimes that mixing a green with a purple will end up with a brown. And that's not necessarily the case. And that's why when I do the color challenges, I like to do the triad color mixing with them, because you can get some really pretty, like much more muted colors, but you're not necessarily going to get like and the colors might be muddier, right? But it's not necessarily going to be like a pure, like chocolate brown or a tobacco leaf kind of brown necessarily, because of just, it all depends on the proportions of the colors. So, yeah. Cool. It's like, gotta quickly check, make sure nothing has come up with the family. But yeah, PV equals nRT, if anyone wants to nerd out a little bit. So pressure times volume is equal to the number of wait, what's R? I don't remember. But like temperature, the temperature goes up, the volume will go up. Wait. Something, I don't know. Something, everyone. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. I'm like, message about camp. Okay, that's just designing a t-shirt. That is nothing. Like attention. Okay, message from kindergarten. Everything good. Everything good. Ideal glass law is your favorite physical law. Yeah, there was one time I put the bag in, like, sealed, and then it, like, swelled up, and I was like, of course it did. And actually, another thing with, not temperature, but pressure, I had an air cast when I broke my foot. So, like, I had a boot, and I guess I had a proper hard boot, but it has, like, to get it to fit your foot, there's, like, air bladders that you would, like, pump up or remove some of that so that way it would, like, stably fit. I went on an airplane, took off the boot, and could not put it back on because the key to fix the like volume of air, to remove air, was in the overhead bin. And because the pressure, like the pressure dropped on the airplane, the volume swelled. Thankfully it didn't burst, so I was still able to wear the boot when I was on that vacation back in like 2018. 2017. It was a while ago when I broke it. And so, yeah. Moles of gas. The ideal gas constant. There we go. I was like, R. Oh, I don't remember, but yeah, ideal gas constant. It's been a while. Because that's, like in grad school, that was not something that I need to deal with. Of course, if I mentioned that, Keith would like, probably like... Keith is is an engineer. Oops, I didn't mean to press that. He teaches fluid mechanics. Yeah, all that is his line. Okay, but we're gonna go ahead and dip dye because I would like to. When will the next month's dye along be? That's a great question, and I don't know. I will pull images for last month's probably around the like 11th or something, but it might not be until later because I think my kids have well, no, their spring break maybe is later. So it'll be sometime after the 15th, but that's when like Passover, no, that is their spring break. So it may not be until like the following week. But we'll see. We'll see what my schedule looks like while the kids are on break. Spring break is always challenging. But yeah, because like, oh my gosh, I bet that for the first time ever, not that I have a kid at the preschool anymore, but one kid always had spring break over Passover. Passover aligns with spring break this year, I think. So that's pretty funny. All right, we are super steamy, so let's dip dye. I removed most of the liquid from our pre-soaked yarn, but I do want to give this a stir first. I need to make sure I can see. Give this a stir, and I'm going to keep the tongs on hand in case I need to move things around. Now we're going to take our yarn and slowly dip it into the dye. But you can see that even with the lot of color that we added in, Pistachio is not very pigmented. It is a very, very pastel color. Screenshot, Rebecca. And so I'm sure that this color will build up as we add more and more. But I don't know if we're going to see breaking. I mean, the color definitely that we're going into is looking more blue to me. than what is coming out. But the dye water is still very green, so I don't know. Did I add acid? Oh my gosh, I forgot to add acid. Okay, well, there's a first time for everything. I was like, okay, this isn't striking very fast, but there's also because there's no acid. So that may affect our results a little bit. But we have part of the yarn in. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. That would be the ratio that I would have started with. We're going to give it a bit of a stir. And now we will continue. Okay, now I'm seeing the color sort of building up more. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? I make mistakes and I am not afraid to share that. Okay, so we have not gone much beyond where I last ended up. I can't believe I didn't add acid. Okay, the color left, it's still green, but it's definitely bluer. Oh my gosh. But yeah, all the colors are soaking up pretty quickly. I would say that like what's left is definitely a little bit more blue, but overall the pot is clearing a lot. And so I think that it breaks a little bit, but it's going to be hard to say. I mean, it does feel like we have more yellow at the end, but we'll see how much color binds now that we properly have acid in our pot. Speaking of acid, I am going to add another 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes to let this sit, and we'll check back in to see if we need more acid or anything. But again, this color is not very dark, and so the greens are beautiful, but we had 2 grams of dye, and this is still like way, way, way less intense than some colors like, say, forest green. If we were to use 1 gram of dye, that would have been way more pigmented and had a lot more color here. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's looking pretty clear, but who knows what the last bit of color in there is. So we will be back in 20 minutes and then evaluate if we need to try this again because I messed up. All right, I'm going to try to do a talking head from where the camera is. Oh no, that was not good. Okay. Will I be on camera? Yeah, it's a little tilted, but that's okay. It's kind of weirdly tilted. Let me see if I can fix that. It's tilted because it's like, there we go. That's better. Hello, I have a face. Camera, can you focus on my face? There's facial recognition. Okay. What am I gonna say? I should have remembered to add acid. Now, it is possible that there's a pigment in there that could have started to strike to the yarn with no acid. My tap water is slightly acidic, and this is something that I see with some colors. However, I don't know if that was happening here today. Normally, I try to start the dip dyeing with lower acid than I might use later on, because if some pigments start to strike at lower acid and others need more acid and others need more acid in time to fully strike, then having less there will allow you to get those colors to break, and you can see that separation of hues through the dip dyeing. However, I didn't really see something super dramatic here. It's possible that if I used significantly more dye, say 4 grams of dye on 100 grams of yarn, that that little bit of color, that little bit more blue we saw at the end, maybe would stick around. But I'm not sure that that's necessarily worth it, because pistachio is a really lovely color. But as a premixed pastel, if you start to use like 4 grams of it for a color that isn't even that saturated, at that point you may as well be using like a different green and mixing a different color to get something with that amount of pigmentation. So I don't think I'm going to try another type right now, but I am curious to see where this is. So we will check back in soon. I mean, I do think that that end is more blue. I do think that I see that. But I don't think it would be significantly more dramatic. Because the other thing to consider is the rate that the colors are moving around and separating. And so even if we do have some super subtle breaking, it's not like a twilight gray where you can get the purples and stuff in there, you know? But yeah, if I make a mistake, I definitely let y'all know. Oh my gosh, your break starts next Monday. Yes. Oh, sorry, Miriam. Yeah, when I was doing that talking head, because of where I was standing, I knew that you would be looking at like my crotch because of where I was standing up to film that versus sitting down on the ground, which maybe wouldn't be so bad to film them while I'm sitting down. But what I'm doing today, as I go out of focus, is I'm working on some episodes of Dyepot Weekly. So that shot of my face and all of that will be in the video in the end. It's just all the downtime and stuff will be edited out. Oh no. So I have, excuse me a moment. I will be right back. Sorry about that, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Thank you so much for your patience. Oh goodness. So in my shop, I have a lot of hand-dyed yarn, but I also have a listing that is a ball winding service. So for $3, I will wind the yarn into a center pull yarn cake for people. For $3 for every 100 grams is the way that I do that. And sometimes people buy that by itself, which is hard because like it's like an add-on service, and so the title of the listing has gone from add-on service to like what does it say now? Everything else. Ball winding service add-on, winding ChemKnits Creations yarn. You must also order yarn with this service. is the title of the listing. And there's now pictures that saying requires purchase of yarn, like your order will be canceled if you only order this listing. And for some reason, like this shows up, like I think Etsy places ads for this or something on Google. And so people will buy just the listing. And I'm like, I can't wind any yarn if you don't buy any yarn. And so then I feel bad and have to cancel. So like, I mean, I don't know like a good way like around it. But yeah, that's like a awkward thing that I try to deal with as soon as possible, because occasionally someone may have forgotten to add the yarn to their cart or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's unfortunate. But speaking of things where actually the ball winding service would not apply for the mini skeins, because like I wouldn't be able to keep track of that. But there are more spring mini skein mini series sets available and add-ons. So I just put the link to the actual listing in the chat, but you can find all of the add-ons and everything in the second link I put there. There's a whole section for the 2022 Spring Mini Skein Mini Series, or the SMSMS, yes, okay, just 5. So you can find that there, and please make sure you are subscribed. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions, because I can certainly answer more things in chat. And then when the timer goes off, I think there's probably about 15 minutes left for the timer. Then, I mean, I'm going to leave the pot here because I messed that up. Originally, I think my plan was to dip dye the yarn and then move it to the stove and then do the blank. We'll see if we have time for the blank. I have a hard stop at like 3:20. Let me see how much time is on the timer. Because I would like to dye the blank. That would be fun. Okay, there's 10 minutes on the timer. I think we'll be able to dye the blank. I'll just have to decide how many colors to use, but I'm planning on doing that soft palette that is similar to a lot of the colors I used for the Nomad review, like the baby blue eyes, hyacinth. Did I pull sage leaf? I don't know. I'm gonna play with like a lot of those colors, and we're just gonna like put them on the blank in like the powder. It should be like a fast one to film, so I'm excited. Wind invisible yarn. Melanie asked, can you add it as an option on each individual additional listing of yarn? In theory, I could, but it would be complicated to do that because I would have to do it on every single listing and then have like a section, do you want to wind this yarn? Yes, no. And sometimes I've used up all the options for selections and stuff on there. And so, yeah, it would make things a lot more complicated. Will there be a summer series as well? Potentially. There may be a mini series at the end of summer. I probably won't call it SMSMS. I'm like, how many S's and M's are there? But there may be, I have like a more niche theme. So I'm not going to talk about the theme for the spring SMSMS right now because I don't have my spoiler warning ready to pop up on screen. But if you want to know the theme, that is in the listing description, and so you can scroll down and see that there. And I also have spoilers in there with that says what all the special add-ons are. Like you don't get a picture of them or anything, but it says like these are the types of items that will be in there, and so you can see that in there if you want those details. But and actually I have to start planning the thing if I'm going to do the thing towards the end of summer. Yeah, I think it depends on a lot. We're going to have some company for like a while in like June, July, so that may like shift my ability to do certain things. And so if I have to, then that theme will be pushed off until next year, which I don't really want to do. But yeah, that one might be just a smaller thing at the end of the summer. I realize that trying to do this and have the series come out while the kids are still in school is, I think, going to be a little bit easier for me to manage. So that's why I moved it up to May versus like the very end of the year, which then felt last year that just felt very chaotic. And so, yeah, it's like trying to spell Mississippi. Yeah, because sometimes I'm like, SMS. Like, I don't have a problem when I'm typing it. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for like shifting that timeline. And I think Hanukkah is late this year. But so yeah, there might be something end of August, early September. But yeah, I mean, I haven't started like dyeing or planning, and like I don't even know like how many of the extras that I have. I don't know how many I have, but I have some like fun ideas, and so yeah, I would like to do it, but again, it might be a little bit more like niche in terms of like when I share what the theme of that would be. Like a lot of people I think would be really excited about the theme, but then there's probably also some people that may not care about the theme, but maybe you love me and so therefore would have fun with it. So that's why I didn't want to necessarily do it for like the main SMS. But I am very, very excited, and I'm really happy to like, I'm like, man, today it's so productive. Like I'm streaming, we're filming a lot of stuff for Dyepot Weekly, and so yeah, like as I mentioned, like I'm finally getting my schedule like back. I used to always be working 2 months ahead, which meant that I had like a ton of flexibility, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to stream and spin today because, you know, there was so much buffer, but I don't feel like until now that I've had that. But of course, I've edited so much recently, which has been great, but then I'm like, ooh, I don't have very many things in the queue to be edited. And so today's about like putting some more things in there to give me some more buffer with the filmed content as well. But yeah, the schedule is doing pretty good. Just a few more things to do, and then I'm going to be editing the SMS videos. So I'm excited, and I hear boiling. So I'm going to reduce that. That's the one problem with the hot plates. You can't adjust it like super fast. But yeah, I mean, like, okay, so the bottom of the plate is like a little bit warm. Oh, it's even warm all the way over on this side. I mean, I can touch it, but like under here, it's not warm. Well, if I go under there and touch the metal, that would be warm. But under this plastic is not warm. So, yeah, let's see. We've got 4 minutes. Oh my gosh. Ooh, guys. Oh my. There's other specks. There's like yellow speckles on there now too. That is awesome. And if you've just tuned in, this is another colorway we did today. It's cooling. We've done a lot. The nuts are starting to show up a little bit more. But yeah, I will admit I'm disappointed by the yarn with the white neps. Now I'm enjoying this colorway. Like I enjoy the colorway we created. I love that. But the white neps, like I wanted them to be pure white. You know, I wanted there to be like sharp contrast. I wanted it to feel like stars on a dark night. I wanted to feel the I wanted to just feel the contrast. And so the fact that they stain a bit, and so it feels like it's just like a softer contrast, you know, because getting white speckles, like if you want tiny white speckles, you have to do resists with like thread and tie it really tight, and it's very labor intensive. And so I was so excited about the thought of like white speckles, but it doesn't quite turn up like that. You see some blue in the pistachio pot. I mean, it definitely looks broken to me. It's not bright, but I think it's the yellows captured first, and there's the blue captured pretty quickly, but I think there's a little bit of blue in that end as well. Oh man. But yeah, I have to figure out, oh shoot, I have to figure out satyrs. We're gonna try like something outside. Today. Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you for your orders. If you're watching right now, this is not just ball winding service. That was a weird noise. Oh man. No, I feel bad. I feel bad because I just don't know if I'm communicating it well for the ball winding add-on service. And like, I may just like deactivate the listing, and then if someone is interested in the ball winding service, then they can message me and we can set that up as like a separate thing. But yeah, that listing just adds aggravation to me. I wish that Etsy would let you do like, I wish there was a way on Etsy to add an add-on and like have it be at the end or something. But of course they removed the ability to add multiples of an item to your cart. It like from the listing itself. You have to do that in the cart. You can't add like, there's a skein of yarn and there's 3 available. Doesn't necessarily show that. You don't see the drop down with the number until you're in the cart now. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But I don't know. I could do a whole Etsy rant. They recently gave a, like, I guess there's like a shareholder meeting and they're like, great, like our profits have grown a ton. And like, this is great. So therefore, we're going to increase the fee on sellers for more growth. And it's just like, okay, so rather than being happy with the increased growth that you've seen, you're gonna squeeze more out of the sellers that are on using your platform to provide this service. I don't know. It's sort of like, I think that like Etsy does not see the shop owners as partners. We are customers, which, you know, is fair, but it's hard when like, I feel like they're not recognizing that Etsy is a marketplace of small businesses versus trying to get us to all act like we're Amazon, which is hard. But, you know, ultimately the fee increase isn't that bad. Like, it isn't that bad. And, but, you know, it's coming to the fact with like yarn prices going up and so many other things, I may have to, like, I haven't raised prices on like standard yarn in a while, and I may need to, because like supply costs have gone up and all kinds of things. Okay, I need to, because I heated that for 30 minutes. Oh, I should bring the camera over there and then I'll bring the bag over to show you all in just a moment. But first I should film it. Okay, the time is up and we have another surprise. Do you see? Do you see? We now have some yellow speckles. Some orange speckles that have shown up. Sage leaf is such a funny color. It's such a funny color. I am so curious. That's just an alarm. I am so curious to see what this yarn is really going to look like. But anyway, I'm going to set it aside to cool completely so then we can wash it and finally look at the colorway. I need a pan to stick this in. but this way I can show you. I don't know if you guys can see the orange speckles because I can't see the camera as I'm trying to show you, but the hyacinth is absolutely, absolutely there. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous combination. Okay, and as for our yarn with white nets, which is gorgeous for all the like, the nets are, okay, that's mostly cool actually. I mean, the nets are visible, and I actually like them on this yarn, which isn't trying to do too much. I just really wanted the contrast. So this is that yarn that we dyed. Okay. And cool. So what I'm going to do now is film this, and then we're gonna turn that off, and then we're gonna use, I think, that leftover dye bath for the Whimsical blank. But it has been 20 minutes, and that green there does look bluer to me. I want to heat this for a little longer, but I am going to move it over to the stove so that way I can use my hot plate for something else. So my plan is to heat it for 10 more minutes, then turn off the heat and let the yarn cool off in the pot for a while. Cool. Okay. And now I'm going to turn this on low. Okay. I'm going to make sure that you guys can see. No, you cannot, because my camera strap is in the way. Yeah, now it looks even more like a speckled trout. Yeah, I'll talk more about Etsy as we're waiting for the blank to heat up, but I'm going to come over with the blank now. In my dye bath, we have some leftover water that has a fair amount of acid in it already. But we are going to create something just very whimsical with our blank today. And so I'm not that worried about the amount of acid or anything really, because we're going to add colors and let them sort of spread and do their thing. But what I do want to do is open up the blank a bit. Since it's stockinette, there's some curling going on, which is totally fine. You're not going to be able to prevent all of that. But then I don't mind if it's like bunched up a bit, but I would like there to feel like a little bit more random with that. But it is a fair amount of water in here. So I am going to let this heat up and get nice and hot. So I'm going to let this heat up and get nice and hot. And then we will come and start adding some colors to it. And so I'll wait and talk about the colors while we're adding them onto the yarn. But while we are working with dry dye powders, I will be wearing a deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves, so that way I don't inhale any dye. And I I do have a yarn mop on hand that is some yarn that was soaked in water with vinegar that I've been using for a lot of projects today to just wipe my fingers onto. And so I will be using that today as well. Cool. Okay, we're gonna let this heat up. And I do have both burners on fairly low. So I may increase that a little bit, but I figured it's worth sharing my thoughts. And so, nope. Yeah, it's just like, I remember a few years ago when Etsy was like, ooh, during there was the really cool show with, totally blanking on her name. But there was a really cool like making it show, right? Where they had like crafters and like different challenges and stuff. And that was really, really cool and fun. And Etsy was like, ooh, we're gonna have our first TV ad ever. And it was cool, but the TV ad was an ad to get more people to come and sell on Etsy, which is totally fine, not a problem. But when they're like, oh, this ad, it's gonna benefit all of you so much. And it's like, well, not necessarily, because that's not an ad that's going to get people to come shop on the platform to buy things as much as it's encouraging more people to come and sell on the platform. And so it's good for their bottom line, but not necessarily like some of the shops, right? So yeah, why don't I have my own shop on my own website? And that is a really great question. And that was something that was a goal of mine. Something I was going to try to work on in 2020. And so that's why. And also, really, the shop is not the biggest part of my focus. The biggest part of my focus is making videos. And so, for me, Etsy takes care of a lot of things like collecting and paying sales tax, which means that I don't have to do that. And so, it's possible that I wouldn't have to do that in a lot of ways with my own website because of like Nexus laws and stuff. As a small business, I don't think I would have to do things in as many states. But there are some states where like I would have to register, collect, and pay sales tax in those states. And so that gets complicated, right? That can get very complicated very quickly. And Etsy now will collect VAT for people in Europe and like UK, and so they'll collect and pay the VAT before. I love that the pan is like shaking. I don't know what that's about. You see that? That was weirding me out. Okay. Yeah, and so that is something also that like I do a couple international sales a year, but not many. And so, you know, that would mean that people would it's just there are perks to Etsy being a larger company and taking care of things. Now, I don't know how a lot of other people deal with this, and maybe they have like an accountant or something, but I'm just me, and so I'm doing it all myself. And so if I had to spend, you know, a couple hours a month, like figuring out how to, like keeping track of like the sales tax I'm collecting for different states and figuring out how to pay that, like that's time taken away from making videos. And so I think if the shop were my main focus for like my fiber arts business, then I would have moved to my own website years ago, because I drive all of the traffic there, with the exception of that ball winding service listing. That people find me from Etsy search. For some reason, when people search for me, that comes up first. Maybe because like my shop name's in the title, I don't know. But like, they're like, ooh, Etsy search gave you like 30% of your sales. And I'm like, yeah, if you look at the search terms, people search for ChemKnits or ChemKnits Creations. And so it's like, if someone is searching for my shop name, that doesn't count on Etsy referring it. And so, you know, that's someone just looking for me. So since I drive my own traffic there, I have no doubt that I would do, I'm sure that there might be some people who find me through Etsy, but I feel like I would be fine with my own shop. And certainly I would save money on fees and things like that. But yeah, I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to change. I have a lot of inertia. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. And yeah, I want to hire someone and pay someone to help with the website design so that way I make sure that I have the features that I want. And so that is something that I would like to do. It's just, you know, it's hard when you're the only one like in your company. And so that means that like, yeah, it's just to research those things. I have to make the time myself and do it. And so that's a big reason. I have no doubt, like, it's not that Etsy is giving me itself enough sales. It's just there's a huge convenience factor, which is the reason why I'm there. And so they have every right to raise fees. That is their prerogative. They have every right. But I do think that the messaging of we made so much more money, let's raise fees so that way we can help everyone make more money. And it's like, well, like, you're making more money and you might get more people and more people shopping, but that doesn't necessarily translate into the shopkeepers making more money. Instead, that means that, like, you know, that might mean people have to raise prices and things like that. And so ultimately the increase is 1.5% of the total sale. So, you know, that's not like a massive increase, right? Like, you know, it's 15 cents on $10, you know, that's not a lot. But, you know, on a skein of yarn, like, that could be about 45 cents, which in the grand scheme of things, percentage-wise, isn't a lot of money, but starts to add up, right? And so that's the issue. And so with like yarn prices having gone up a bit, and again, not very much, but it's just like, yeah, I don't think I've raised prices for a very long time. And so I'm going to see if I can avoid doing that. But yeah, I mean, that's just the factor. Yeah. There's a lot to be said about having someone else handle sales tax. Yeah. And so the sales tax, I think, is the biggest thing keeping me there. But the bigger thing, like, them raising the fees doesn't anger me as much as I have like one Etsy rant video when they made bigger shops opt into this advertising policy, which is like, you're making, like, they're making us be like, Etsy is the affiliate. And so they're like, if we run an ad and it results in a sale in your shop, we're going to keep 15% of that sale. And it's like, and I'm not allowed to opt out of that. And so, and I think a lot of those ads are for this ball winding service, which I feel bad, but like, you know, I can't fulfill that order because I can't wind air. But the other thing that can happen is if you Google ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop, and none of you should ever worry about this, and I don't think this has ever actually happened, but there's an ad, like an Etsy ad with the search term, and I'm like, if someone's Googling like my shop name, like, that's not, like, I don't know, it's that ad policy, which thankfully, like, does not affect me very much. I was nervous it would happen a lot more, but them forcing us to pay Etsy commissions for when they've decided to take out ads, it's like, okay, if you're going to raise the price of fees, like, if you're doing that, then, like, use that to pay for your ads. Don't then, I just feel, I'm starting to feel nickeled and dimed. Wait, I'm missing something, Sylvia. And that's Canadian Bliss hand crochet business. I think I don't make the most. Maybe Etsy wants to keep the businesses small so they don't generate capital and move to their own platform. I mean, this is the thing. Like, there's some people that don't care about, there are a lot of people that don't care about the increase, and there's some people that are going to trying to organize a boycott for when these fees go in. And, you know, this is just I should set up my own shop because my margins would be better, because I would still have to pay like payment fees and I'd be paying a monthly fee for things for Shopify, but it wouldn't be a fee per listing and things like that. And so and I wouldn't be paying like a percentage of every sale to Shopify. And so that is something I need to find someone to help me do it, because I want to do it well and not cobble it together on my own. But yeah, so that is something that I would like to do. The thing that would push me, like the fire under me to push me off Etsy faster, is if they actually required us to offer free shipping over $35, because that I can't afford. I can't afford that. And it's if a skein of yarn is $29, it's just not. If they were to force that, then I would have to leave. But I think that enough people do well on the platform, and so don't necessarily care as much. I don't know. Yeah. I make a point to make sure the Google search result I'm clicking isn't an ad, because y'all shouldn't have to pay for that when you're specifically looking for me. Yeah. The Shopify fees are not bad. You can have a lot of add-ons there, but most, so many major companies that you might shop through are powered by Shopify. And so even bigger brands that no longer count as indies. And so they have as a back end, it's really good. I think it starts at $30 a month for something pretty bare bones, but I'm now curious because I did research into this a while ago. So the basic e-commerce is $30 a month, and then there's a higher plan that's $80 a month, which lets you have more staff accounts, which I don't need, more inventory things. I guess you get some kind of reports. You get a little bit higher of a shipping discount, and I think that you pay a little bit less credit card processing fees, which everyone, no matter where, if you build your own backend from scratch and are hosting your website somewhere, you will always have to pay the credit card fees, whether you're using Stripe or PayPal, whatever you're using to process the credit card payments. That is something that you always will have to pay. Oh, if you have the Pro, they'll do the import at checkout. Huh. But yeah, I don't know if there's an add-on for tax. Oh, I just saw something that says Shopify collects sales tax in states where it's required by law. Stated prices do not include these tax. Oh, no, fine. That's for collecting sales tax on the Shopify plan. So I was like, oh. Yeah, so I already own ChemKnitsCreations.com. And so the other issue that I have, yeah, so I own ChemKnitsCreations.com. That just redirects to Etsy right now. And so I bought that ages ago. But the reason why my shop isn't just called ChemKnits is, and I don't know if it's me in an old account or if there's another account just named ChemKnits on that platform, but my blog is at ChemKnits.com. And I have well over a decade of links to that and things. And so I don't want to move that. I don't want to move that from Blogspot because that is its own bubble, right? I don't want to mess it. And I still actually make I don't make a lot of ad revenue from the blog anymore, but I do make some affiliate income because I have some pages that show up really high in search results about bare yarn and dyeing tools and things like that. And so that works well for me. And so I don't want to move the blog. And so that's why I have to think how I would change the website. But so I own ChemKnitsCreations.com. And so that is probably what I would use for the shop, because like it's the same name as the Etsy shop, nice parody. But the Shopify fees, like Etsy actually, they now changed something that was good, so you can look at your I can look at for a month and see how much I paid in fees, and things like that. So for example, and now granted this is a pre-order, but I paid enough in transaction fees last month, but maybe March isn't the best one. Maybe February is a better one to look at. Okay. Yeah, I pay enough in transaction fees to cover the to cover Shopify fees. You know, like I'm paying enough almost even in listing fees to cover the Shopify fees. So because Etsy, so the thing with Etsy that's good if you're starting out is that it costs 20 cents to add a listing, and then you only pay more if you make a sale. And so that is a really nice way to start, because versus setting up a shop and starting out paying $30 a month or $80 a month for that shop. So that's why like starting on Etsy was really, really good. I need to find someone who I can hire because I would spend money to build out the website and do the things I would like the website to do in ways that I don't necessarily know how. So yeah, but those are the thoughts that go through my head. And so yeah, at some point it'll move. But you know, maybe I could do something like if for international customers, I could do that through Etsy, so that way they can have like that paid. I just don't want to have to, like, I can't ship to Germany, for example, because they have packaging laws, and I would have to register as a small business in Germany, which is not very expensive, but for shipping maybe one package in 5 years, it's not worth it. And so yeah, it's hard, and I felt really bad. They're trying to pass in Canada's licensing fee for content. Wait. Licensing fee for YouTube? Or Shopify? Trip and falls. I'm gonna stand up to start filming this. Oh shoot. Oh crap. I've been distracted so long. So YouTube is? Because that would be bad. Okay, let me dye this yarn. I mean, if YouTube started to charge, I mean, that's the thing, like, YouTube makes so much money off of our content that charging us to add content on, that would kill my business. That would absolutely kill me. That is actually terrifying.
But I have trouble seeing them doing that, because like YouTube takes a huge, like, they make a lot of money on ads. So like they need us. They need content creators as much as we need them. Okay. Okay, it's warm but not hot. Okay, the pan is warm, but not hot. So I'm actually going to turn up the heat a little bit, but we're going to start adding some colors on. And I'm going to start with some sage leaf. And I'm sort of just taking it, and it's not that I'm going for speckles necessarily. These colors are going to spread, but we're just adding it on. Just a little bit randomly. We're going for something just whimsical and fun. I do want to make sure, even as I like wipe my fingers on this yarn mop, I want to make sure that my glove fingertips are dry before I go into a dye container. Because I don't want to introduce moisture into these jars. Okay, next up is peach blush. The colors we're using today do have some brightness to some of them, but they also are a little bit more pastel. And so the blanks will also introduce some like cool resist into them and things like that. And so we're really just randomly going on. I'm going to move this over here. Oh, am I filming? Yes, thank God. But, for example, like, but we're not creating, say, a full gradient. There's asymmetry with more green here, more orange there. But it's not going to be like perfect distribution of every color throughout. So this is now Baby Blue Eyes, which is a blue I adore. Adding a fair amount of that. And, you know, and we may come back in and add more of some of these colors as we decide we want them. But this is the palette that I'm playing with. I just really wanted to randomly add colors onto a blank because it's been a while since I've done something like this. I may end up grabbing a fifth color, but for now, let's do some hyacinth. This is a color I really, really like, and it may take a little bit of time to dissolve. This is a color that sometimes almost feels like it disappears. So we'll see what that's going to do. But you can see it's slowly starting to pop in. But I do think, yeah, I think I want a little pink. I'm going to grab a little bit of some Valentine blush. And to like tie things in, I'm having some like small bits of it all over, but like mostly in the middle. Let's add some of it here. Just for funsies. Did I really just say funsies? I think I did. Okay, and now looking at this, the color I want more of is some of the sage leaf. So I'm going to come in and add more of this in some of these areas. Not a lot, but just a bit. There's probably going to be a fair amount of white on this blank, but I'm having fun just applying these colors very randomly onto the blank. And I think I am also going to do a little bit more peach blush. There's some areas where I'm like, a little bit of it would be fine, but I also wouldn't mind if we had a little bit more of it. in some of those areas. But yeah, how is that for something just like really whimsical and fun? So anyway, now I'm going to want to let this sit and heat for about 30 minutes. Okay.
Which I don't actually have. So this is what we're gonna do. I definitely don't have 30 minutes. I have about 15 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is, actually I'll say that on camera. But technically, I don't have 30 minutes. I have 15 minutes before I have to go pick up the kids from school. So what I'm going to do is leave this with the heat on for 15 minutes. Then I'm going to turn off the heat, unplug the hot plate so it's unplugged, let it sit while I get the kids from school. And then when I get back home, I will turn the heat back on to heat for another 15 minutes. So we will have that 30 minutes of heat. But logistically, this is how I'm going about it today. And then the same thing goes for that steamer basket. But let me clean up a little bit and then I'll chat some more. I hope I didn't bring anyone down with the Etsy rant. I mean, like, my experience with Etsy has been more good than bad. I just feel like they don't acknowledge the fact that their makers are small businesses a lot. And so I don't feel necessarily that there are things that they are doing that actually, I feel like the things that they do benefit Etsy more than they benefit the people using the platform to sell. Nope. There we go. YouTube platform. Oh my gosh, the Canadian government's not passed. Oh, the Canadian government is trying to pass it. Ooh. I am gonna look that up right now. Okay, to regulate social media and streaming. That's a year ago. I see. Okay, that might be about streaming and stuff. The camera strap is in view again? I don't see it. Oh, maybe just a tiny bit. But it wasn't in view on the actual camera. Sorry about. Oh, you're seeing part of the tripod right now, I think. You would love me to do an Etsy rant? You haven't sold on Etsy for 9 years and you're debating whether to open an Etsy shop. I mean, I think that there are many perks to Etsy. There's name recognition, so customers feel safe shopping there. Whereas when you have a Shopify site, like, people don't know Shopify, so they don't necessarily know, like, who's processing their payment information and about trust there. Even though you know a site is a Shopify site that you visited before when they're like, oh, we'll text you a code to enter your checkout information. And so even though the companies aren't related, the back end recognizes you, right? And so things like that. But yeah, I have a feeling like YouTube may not pass that. I'm going to reduce the heat on the steamer basket. Yeah, I mean, YouTube is very different, I think, from Etsy for sure. And so I have, I mean, I don't know how people would necessarily do it otherwise, but I mean, for example, like if YouTube was like, hey, we're going to charge you to stream and you're going to have to pay a fee of X dollars to stream, I would be like, well, well, then I'm going to go to Twitch or something. Like I would have to hop platforms. So therefore, I mean, I don't know. I know that if anything, what I could see YouTube doing, which would be less obvious, because with some things like super chats and stuff, I know what percentage I get and what percentage YouTube gets and things like that. But for ads, we don't really know necessarily. Once you have enough like subscribers and stuff, you might get a higher percentage or something. But I have a feeling what YouTube would do is they would take a bigger cut of the ad revenue versus charging the content creators to put their content on the platform. But I mean, they could, like they, you know, like Google Photos and stuff used to have unlimited storage, and now it's like tied to your Google account. And so, I mean, they very much could. C11, I don't know if that's the one that I found. Oh no, what's C11? Consumer Privacy Protection Act. Okay, I need like a news article. Okay, I see. YouTube says this bill could impact the earnings of Canadian creators. I see. Okay, so yes. I think impacting the earnings, which is still a very big deal. As a content creator, that is a little frightening. But I think that that's what it is. It would, okay, it would subject streaming platforms to the same rules as radio and television. Okay, so it would mean that YouTube would have to pay, in which case, the focus is on commercial social media content. Yeah, so it would cut into earnings, but I think that what it would mean would be YouTube would take a bigger, like, would take it out of what they're paying people versus us having to pay money, which is still similar, but scary. Very, very scary. Yeah, like that, ooh, that is, yeah, if the U.S. were to do something like that, which, you know, they very, very well may, but, yeah, I mean, this is why, yeah, it's sort of like if, you know, YouTube goes and it's like, well, there's my whole business, right? I mean, like, I have earnings from like a lot of different ways. I have like affiliate income. I have like direct to customer sales through Etsy shop, and I get ad revenue here on YouTube. And then I also have the Patreon, and so it's very complicated. But my main focus of everything is YouTube, and so that's where I try to pour the most of my time, and so the most of my effort. But anyway, my hard stop is coming up very, very soon, because then I'll have to go pick up the kids. But I just have to say, I know I've gone on a bit of a rant here at the end, but I have had so much fun here today, streaming while filming these videos, making mistakes because I'm a little distracted, but that's fine. I'm having a lot of fun, and it's really great to I guess, stream and share and play with color. And yeah, I mean, all of these will become Dyepot weeklies eventually. And so probably in the next day or so, a bunch of these will be added as last minute lab partner listings. And so for last minute lab partners, I've already filmed the bulk of the video, but then I will film like thank yous to the lab partner at the beginning and the end of the video to insert into the video. And then it means that something that is maybe sitting, waiting to be edited at some point, then becomes a higher priority for me to edit. And so it's always worth checking that out. And because then there's a variety of yarn bases and there's sneak peeks of the like technique and the colors. But of course, you guys have seen these. Oh no, I'm glad that you informed me of that because I had no idea of the like Canadian rule. Like I had no idea. And so yeah, I'm very glad to know. Hello, I'm just finishing up. But yeah, I had a blast. So please subscribe, turn on notifications. Even with my Etsy rant, please go and check out my Etsy shop. Because not only do you get some fun hand-dyed yarn, it does support the content here because A, it helps me create more space for more yarn, which is a very good thing, but also like it directly goes in, the money goes into more materials and things like that, so I can do more new videos. I'm glad. And so yeah, and if you're interested in more behind the scenes streams like this, I do one every month just for ChemKnits patrons. And so it's a very small audience. Sometimes people watch after the fact, but I show like a different part of the process. Sometimes it's an introduction, like for the Nomad video, one of the behind the scenes live streams was me unboxing the yarn. And then through that and talking with the people that were there, I figured out how I was going to structure that video. And I was like, oh, instead of doing all the unboxing and then all the dyeing, I went from one yarn, like reviewed one yarn at a time. And that worked really, really well. And so, yeah, I get a lot of good feedback from patrons in these videos. And so you can find more, I'll pop that in the chat, more about that here. But yeah, I'm hoping that in general, like I can do just more stuff like this. Even if I'm just randomly dyeing yarn and going out of focus, even if I'm just randomly dyeing yarn but not filming episodes of Dyepot Weekly, I'm also hoping to just do more of that again and stream more. And I don't know, it's really, really fun. And so, yeah, it's something I have missed. And yeah, I'm hoping to think about, yeah, just how I want to structure things. And I mean, I'm certainly not at the point where I'd have like a regular streaming schedule or anything. It's still going to be a bit more random, but who knows? Who knows? And so I'm just very excited to see what this year is going to bring. And on that note, thank you all so much for joining me, and thank you for watching, and subscribe! Oh man, I'm so excited by this blank. I feel like the purples aren't popping as much as they do in person, but they're really pretty. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think that a lot of these videos are going to be so much fun. Filming the conclusion is going to be hectic. I mean, I routinely do multiple videos in a day, not usually 5. Usually the most is like 3, and like, actually sometimes I do more, but usually I'm not hopping back and forth between them as much as I am. But anyway, yes, I've got to go out the door. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye!